How experience shapes our beliefs from the outside in. Indeed, the behavioral element in CBT acknowledges its debt to a school of psychology, behaviorism, that emphasized the way the brain forms associations in response to environmental input. What the early behaviorists soon discovered, however, was that much more was going on than the blind pairing of stimulus and response. If you put rats in mazes, the rats in their mazes were actively learning. The results of some experiments simply didn't make sense unless the rats were creating internal maps of their world and automatically modifying them in response to new experiences. Now, depending on whose company you keep, you would probably agree that the average human being is more sophisticated than a rat. Our brains are remarkably good at searching for patterns. Human beings instinctively draw conclusions from their experiences all the time. If the child burns his hand on a stove, he is unlikely to touch it again. He knows that it's hot. However, not only is he unlikely to touch that particular stove, he will also approach any stove-like object he encounters in future with caution. His internal model of the world has been updated. We all generalize from our experience in ways that helpfully allow us to predict what might be coming up next. Emotional learning is no different. A child who is neglected or abused may instinctively generate theories or even reach hard and fast conclusions about herself and the world around her. If I am being treated like this, it must be because I am bad. Or this person has hurt me. Other people will hurt me too. The layers of our belief system. We have already introduced NATs, the negative thoughts that spring unbidden into our minds and influence our emotional responses to things. However, our NATs are often closely linked to enduring assumptions we hold about ourselves and the world around us. These assumptions begin to form in childhood as we start to try to make sense of our experience. They make up a personal set of working theories about reality, but they are not usually set in stone. This is just as well because, as children, we often form our assumptions on the basis of limited life experience and inadequate evidence. Our internal models are very susceptible to input from other people, especially our parents. If you have been told throughout childhood that you are a capable, lovable individual, you're likely to grow up seeing yourself that way. If you have been told you are an idiot who will never amount to anything, these kinds of remarks will color your assumptions about yourself and predispose you towards negative patterns of thought and feeling. In CBT, assumptions that are rigid, oppressive, or narrow-minded, and that consequently end up making us unhappy, are usually referred to as dysfunctional assumptions. These often take the form of conditional statements, such as, if I do everything perfectly, then I will be loved, or I must never express my anger, or I should always put others before myself. Dysfunctional assumptions represent the next layer down from NATs, and tackling them in therapy can make a person much less vulnerable to a host of NATs that flow so readily from them. Over time, our experiences and assumptions gradually harden into our core beliefs, a set of fundamental position statements that we have intuitively distilled from our accumulated learning. Core beliefs can be much harder to pin down than NATs because they often take the form of implicit knowledge, only revealing themselves in our most generalized assumptions about ourselves, other people, and the world around us. Examples of destructive core beliefs: I am a bad person. Everyone is out for themselves. I am not allowed to have anything good in my life. The world is a dangerous place. They are the bedrock of our internal working model of the world and are usually strongly resistant, but not impossible to change. Sometimes once is enough. If you want to teach a dog to come when you blow a whistle, you will probably have to pair the whistle with a suitable reward many times. Classical conditioning theory states that the more often an outcome, the dog treat, is paired with a particular contingency, in this case coming at the whistle, the stronger that association will become. This is why childhood, with its strong repertoire of repeating patterns, is such a fertile breeding ground for our core assumptions. However, after one single bad dose of food poisoning from a fish dish, psychologist Seligman found that he couldn't stomach fish for a long time afterwards. Seligman realized that in some cases, we only need to have one truly bad experience to alter our model of the world, fundamentally. It can be the same with events that unleash particularly negative feelings, sometimes referred to by CBT therapists as critical incidents. With such threatening emotions, we don't normally revisit or examine such beliefs.